Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. It's the last session, but I think it's an important session when we talk about, after hearing infrastructure readiness, after hearing opportunities and challenges. I mean, let's come to the ground that where do we stand today when we see it from an Indian perspective. So I think our panelists will help all of us or enlighten us that from here, where we go. If we understand the ecosystem which exists in India, how we can take this billion-dollar opportunity into a reality. I mean, which applications we believe are the right applications which should take shape in terms of its maturity, in terms of its ecosystem. So without taking time, our session is divided like this. We have a lead speaker. I'll introduce him, and then he'll speak for 10 minutes. And after that, we'll have a 5-minute introduction, where they will tell us how they are contributing to the world of m2m and IoT. And then there are no more questions. I'm doing it. We will ask the question from the audience, and if time permits, then I'll ask the question. So with that in mind, thank you very much. And let me take this opportunity to introduce Mr. Nigel Chadwick. Chadwick is the founder and CEO of Stream Technologies. Mr. Nigel was also named Entrepreneur of the Year 2013 in recognition of his achievement in creating a unique technology company which focused exclusively on IoT and M2M. Mr. Nigel has steered Stream to a leading position in cellular, satellite, and low-power radio connectivity for IoT. So low power, we all know about it, but satellite is also there. So let's hear from him. Lately, he has led Stream globalization and the development of its IoT X connectivity enablement platform aimed at wireless carriers around the world which seek connectivity management for IoT. With that, we have a pleasure to have you here. Please share your thoughts about your product portfolio. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much, Dinesh. It's a real pleasure to be here. I've done a lot of traveling over the last 6 to 7 weeks. So I did CES just after New Year. 3 weeks I was at m2m Evolution in Miami. 2 weeks ago I was speaking at Manila, m2m Platforms event. From Manila I went to Singapore because of all the smart cities and white space stuff that's happening there. Then on to Tokyo because we're going to be opening some interesting things up in Tokyo in about a month and a half to 2 months' time. And then yesterday it was a 10-hour flight to here. So I'm absolutely delighted to be here. I'm on my way back to the UK. It's going to be a very exciting year. So I'd like to just share, just 10 minutes, it's not a lot of time, really top-level stuff in terms of some of the things we're doing at Stream and where we're going with some of the partners we're working with, because I think it's quite relevant for what's happening here in India. And it's been a really interesting day because I've heard a lot about what's actually going on in India, and hopefully quite a bit of this is going to be quite relevant over the next year or two. So we've talked a lot about connectivity today. Digital inclusion connectivity involves both people and things, and it's really the lifeblood of a digital economy. In moving forward, we've got to face the reality that we've got to somehow get 50 billion devices connected by 2020. That's quite a big ask. And it could go two ways. It could be utopia or it could be dystopia. There's a huge number of different things that can be measured, a big variety of different types of sensors out there, and a huge, massive flow of data and analytics that need to be put in around that. Just if we look on the smart city and environment, this itself creates connectivity challenges. And okay, IoT and the challenges are very wide, and we could obviously spend all day talking about the different issues that challenge IoT moving forward. But I'm going to be very focused on the connectivity aspect in m2m and IoT, because that's what we as a company, and I've personally been involved in since the year 2000, so that's 15 years of experience. So how do we address this issue in terms of making sure that connectivity delivers data from A to B in the format it's meant to be delivered in, and when it's delivered from millions of connected endpoints or things? Different things need to have different connectivity. So, for example, One type of IoT case study will require different connectivity to another. Smart home, for example, might rely on Wi-Fi. Pollution monitoring might rely on satellite purely because you can't get cellular connectivity into a certain area. Asset tracking, for example, might require low data satellite. So what tends to happen here is that different providers of solutions end up going for different connectivity solutions, and different connectivity solutions are provided by different connectivity providers. If we just stick on cellular, we've got 5 or 6 different network operators alone, just in India. That's before you start going outside India with regards to any exportation that you might want to do in terms of solutions into other countries, or importation. So these different providers of wireless connectivity, if you like, have all got different ways of managing the connectivity. So when you're putting a solution into the IoT sector, it's quite likely that as a user, as an enterprise user, you're going to have to use 2 or 3 or 4 different platforms. And we've been working on this problem for quite a number of years now in terms of how do we give the enterprise client one single platform that can manage any brand and any form of connectivity. And we've got a platform called IoTX, which solves this problem. And it solves it through a number of different ways. I can give you more information by email or have a look on our website. But effectively what I think is going to happen here is that this is going to start changing the game in terms of enabling far higher accelerated uptake of devices and things. For example, there's going to be a new wave of low-power radio. Low-power radio has been talked about on and off today on a number of occasions, so 6-low-pan. White space was referenced. We've got LoRa technology from Semtech coming over the horizon. And what this is going to allow is a privatization of public networks with the right platform in place. It's also going to extend mobile network operator carrier capability. It's going to allow those operators that are really savvy to move not just from cellular but into different areas of connectivity, not least of low power radio connectivity, which is probably at the end of the day is going to actually be probably the largest proportion of connected things in terms of how you're going to connect these end devices, the 50 billion. In terms of putting a platform in as well and seamlessly integrating from end to end the actual connectivity of the data transit, we're effectively lowering the total cost of ownership. And I think this is really important. I think total cost of ownership has been largely misunderstood, perhaps even ignored to a large extent. But for me, it's one of the big barriers to large uptake in terms of billions of devices. And in terms of any platform, moving forward, it's absolutely essential that, surely not, it's got to be agnostic. It's got to be future-proofed. A solution provider today, or a hardware manufacturer today, or a customer wanting a solution doesn't want to be held to ransom by virtue of the fact that they've only got one current technology to rely upon. So I think as we move into the larger use of low-power radio networks and Wi-Fi and potentially cable operators, I think we're going to see a serious shift in terms of the business models and the business rules that are changing. I think that this opens up a new era of new charging structures that can be sliced and diced in many, many different ways by using the right billing algorithms within a platform. And effectively, instead of a capex cost of an end device and then a free low-power radio network running for X number of years thereafter, I think we're going to start seeing a shift towards a very, very low-cost capex of an end device, a low-power radio network being implemented, and then monetizing the endpoints over 1, 2, 5, or even beyond number of years. And I think that the revenue model from that makes much more sense for everybody involved. I also think that there's going to be new partnerships evolving from these macro revenue share opportunities. And that then, by virtue of the fact that you're stitching together different partnerships, you're going to be able to offer out-of-box solutions for smart homes and smart cities. I'm going to jump forward because I realize it's a 10-minute slot. So in terms of the new partnerships, I think some of the new partnerships that we're experiencing are really innovative. And it's involving a whole bunch of companies that effectively are involved in device management and application and data management and system integrations. So what we've got in this ecosystem, I think this is where it's going now, is IoTX. That's the Stream platform. So through IoTX, you can effectively manage your connectivity across hundreds of thousands of devices or millions of devices across different bearer carriers, whether it's cellular, satellite, or the range of low-power radio options. So you're managing your complete connectivity through IoTX, but IoTX is much more than just a connectivity platform. This is where it gets really interesting, because what we've integrated with are other companies specializing in different areas across the IoT ecosystem. On the right-hand side of the chart there, we've got ThingWorx, which is a PTC-owned company. ThingWorx provides device management application platform, and it also provides the ability to build a user interface, a dashboard, in terms of device management. On the left, just above, we've got What.io. What.io is a really, really interesting startup company with some really strong funding based in New York. And What.io is effectively a platform that enables exchange of data between different individuals within different organizations. So it's when you start to integrate these types of companies and these types of services into the IoTX platform, it creates a whole new ballgame in terms of one single one-stop shop, if you like, in terms of managing devices and the ability to manage data coming off those devices out and into the ecosystem. So Stream Technologies, we're not a startup company. We've been in the game for 15 years. We started Stream in 2000. We were probably in the game 5 years too early. We started actually as a very, very specialist MVNO in providing cellular connectivity purely for IoT, or m2m as it was then. 2005, we started to develop an internal platform because we realized that if end customers wanted to manage many end devices, or the connectivity to many end devices, we needed to have a platform which made it really, really easy for them to do that. And that platform then got developed over a 10-year period and refined in terms of taking the friction out of the integration via APIs to the mobile network operators, and taking the friction out in terms of creating superlative functionality to enterprise clients who were wanting to connect solutions in their tens of thousands. And about six months ago, I realized that the platform had much greater value than just having it reside in Stream. So we branded it IoTX and released it out to the 200 plus tier 2 and tier 3 network operators and carriers around the world, and also those wanting to adopt LoRa. And the response has been phenomenal. That's probably the reason why I'm traveling the world so much at the moment, because we have incredible interest in the platform and where we're going with this, because of the ecosystem that we're creating and because of the uniqueness of it. And it really does solve a genuine need and a genuine challenge and problem. So I'd like to say thanks very much. It's been a fantastic day, and I'll hand it back over to Dinesh for the panel session. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you. Maybe before I go to the other panelists, I have a question for you. I mean, I could see that you are bringing a platform and you have a great amount of experience. How about the APIs? Is this built on an open API, or in another word, what about the applications? Are you working for business to business, or business to customer, or consumer? So where are these applications? Are you also taking care of the application aspect of it as well when you talk to tier 1 or tier 2?
So the application one is really interesting. I mean, we do everything through five simple APIs with the mobile network operators in terms of integration. And we create a virtual state of the network and the connection. So we don't technically disrupt the network operator at all. In terms of the applications and the solutions going out to market, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of the mobile network operators now shifting up the value chain by wanting to provide solutions out to the marketplace. Streams has had an absolute total mantra of not going down the solution or the application route. There's other companies out there that will do it far better than us. I'm a big believer in doing something, sticking to your knitting, doing it really, really well. And Also, if we were to start providing solutions out to the marketplace, that would put us directly in competition with our very customers who are taking connectivity off us as an MVNO. So we've been really smart. Okay, it's been a long, long gig. It's been a long time in coming, but what we've done is effectively set out to create an incredible technical capability by the virtue of the team. And we're pretty much a software house now that just happens to work in the, operate in the telco sector. And we've put the technology parts in place over a 15-year period with the big belief that eventually the profitability will follow. And that's quite different to the private equity-funded companies out there that came out of the US and Europe, and particularly the MVNOs, that because they've been backed with private equity money, they've had a need to go after sales and revenues early on to return the returns that the equity guys have required. And that's kind of been an inverse situation to ourselves. And what's happened there is that these guys haven't really rolled out the same level of technical capability as Stream, but they've maybe made profits in their earlier days on a faster and greater extent. But I fully believe that we took the right path, although it's been a longer gig. Yeah.
We will definitely ask. We'll try to address as many questions as we can, but let's hold on. Let's finish this panel. So maybe I could go to Mrs. Reena Malhotra, and let's not waste time to introduce. I'll give an opportunity for her to introduce herself, and let's share how government is working or facilitating this M2M uptake in this country. And when we see, the next stage, you have already released a roadmap. So let's hear from you how government can facilitate this uptake of this M2M and IoT in India.
Good afternoon to all of you. I'm coming from Department of Telecom and working on the M2M roadmap, which is coming from Government of India. So without wasting much time in my introduction, I would rather like to come straight to the point. From the morning, we have many speakers who Mr. Bhargav was there, Mr. Agrawal was there, who was talking about what DOT is doing. We are coming up with roadmap which is setting direction to everyone. And not going in detail of that roadmap because the draft document is already available on DOT website and all of you can see to this. We are putting some directions, guidelines which are required necessarily for the services from security and government viewpoint, but we want to keep the things flexible and open to the industry, especially when M2M is upcoming and not even has come to a maturity stage. So we would like to act as a facilitator so that things can come, business model can evolve, and as and when required, whatever tweaking or whatever little bit of things are required from government side, we will continue doing that thing. Keeping that thing in mind, from the industry and especially from the government side, what we expect, how they should do, I would like to spend few minutes on that side. See, today everybody is talking about building services, applications, keeping their network and keeping their requirements in mind. Ideally, because India is a resource hungry country, its infrastructure is very poor, and if we have to build infrastructure, it has to be planned in a way that reuse and utilization of infrastructure is at the maximum level, and things should be planned accordingly. I can take few examples. We talk about smart city, we are talking about building of roads and everything. A very simple thing is whenever such infrastructure is being built, ducting can be built along the road, and if ductings are there, there is no need for every telecom company to go and do digging. Tomorrow everybody is talking about power utilities, where multiple utilities will be providing power services. They will also go and everyone will dig the road. So what kind of infrastructure is going to affect it, and how much money is getting wasted? So ducts should be there in every building. We plan for water pipe, we plan for electric cables, but no one plans for data cables, no one plans for the various things, which also should be done, and especially for multi-story buildings. These are the small things. If everybody is keeping in mind and taking care of that part. I will again go to utility sites. Everybody talks about smart grids and everything is coming. Why infrastructure is not built on which water connections can also be laid, and those can also be taken care, gas pipelines can be taken care, so that we need not reinvent the network, we need not go for duplication of the networks and work in isolation, work in the things. So our recommendations will be go for common physical infrastructure, go for common data center. Government is already doing this thing for government organizations, that at each state level there will be only one data center. But what about the commercial organizations? See, of one or two data centers can cater to all their requirements, security and all those are standard things. Cloud, if cloud can offer, it can be indigenously data centers can be built. So these kind of things needs to be taken into consideration. And these small things can take care of various things. Then coming to the building the things, when we talk about building any services, last mile connectivity, everybody is talking about that there is concern and of the infrastructure and wireless things. At DOT also we understand that various kind of wired and wireless communication technologies will come, and worldwide what we are seeing is that the various m2m applications, they are either being built on the telco networks or they are being built in the various free bands available across spectrum. And fortunately, unfortunately, different countries have different kind of free bands, and everybody comes and says in India you make these band free, these band free, and then proper planning and that thought process nowhere goes in the picture. So we also want that whatever communication technologies are there, thought process should be given, how those can be effectively used across application, across domains, and whatever assistance and support is required, DOT will be there to take care of that things. But those things needs to be properly planned. Then next thing is everybody talks about number of connections which are going to be coming in m2m domain, and there is already being spoken from the morning that we are already reaching to 1 billion connections and another will be added soon. So numbering plan is again a crucial thing where we have to make sure that these numbering happens properly. And from TEC is already working in this domain, and industry, we don't get much input and much feedback that what need to be done. So if anybody has any suggestions, they can come to TC, they can come to DOT, and we are going to help. So rather when I am talking here, I don't want to say what DOT is doing, what we say that what we all together are doing and how we can take this forward. And with that thing, not saying much, I will leave for the questions, and I would like to answer the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. And one thing I must say before I move to the next panelist, I must appreciate the DOT effort of doing a consultation process. Roadmap and a guideline is the right way forward rather than having a policy in place when the system is not matured or when the uptake is very minimal. So I think I must appreciate on behalf of the industry that this is an excellent step which you have taken, and with the fiber in place, probably things will take off. But of course, there are a lot of questions that right applications, vernacular languages, and I think efforts are ongoing by Department of Electronics and IT as well. So I think you'll see the light of the day. So with that, I'll move from this corner to another corner with Mr. Rafael Khan. It's your chance to 5 minutes share, and you are a technology expert. You know MQTT, you're software man. Tell us where you're working and how this could contribute to the scale, R&D and innovation, how this could shape, because at the end of it, R&D and innovation is key. Of course, we talk about standard, we talk about harmonization, but the uptake has to happen when it is R&D and innovation taken to a next level of commercialization, because that is how we can make it affordable. So please share your thoughts on it. Thank you.
Thank you. So my name's Raf Cohn. I wear 3 hats. On the agenda, I'm listed as the co-chair of the MQTT standard. But more importantly, I'm in business. I'm the CTO of a company in India called Kisan Hub, and prior to that, I was the chief architect of StormMQ, a VC startup in message queuing. We've heard an awful lot today about M2M and IoT, a lot about infrastructure, its flaws, and the problems of reliability. And I want to propose something very simple today, how standards can help and how standards can hinder. Getting this right is extremely simple, except for the fact it's very hard. It's very hard because there's a lot of distractions, a lot to think about. It's only when you've worked through the problem several times that you can make something simple. It's Benjamin Franklin who once said, "I apologize for the length of this letter. I did not have time to make it shorter." And it's time to reflect that you need to get this right. And that's what I can help you with today. I have built the sorts of solutions that we've heard about. Previously, I built a message queuing platform that would handle 1 million simultaneous TCP connections on one box. I have built solutions for telematics for electric vehicles. Today, we'll call those IoT. Standards are important, but only those standards that help us. And what are they? Well, there are two kinds of standards. There are those that are made in a smoky room by architects who think they know best for their customers. And there are those that codify good existing practice. And MQTT is the latter. I have had the misfortune to be involved in the first. I founded a startup around it, I raised $1 million, and I lost my shirt. But I'm back. So, two things for a good standard. And I'll talk about them particularly with reference to MQTT. Simplicity. It has to be easy to understand. It's not something for the big architect of the company to tell all his employees how to do. It's something that every software developer or engineer can pick up on his own accord, understand, and make immediate use of. It has to be popular, so it has to appeal to the middle ground. It has to appeal to the average. We cannot predict to standards committees how our standard will be used. So let's take what people have already done, tidy it up, clean it up, and make it consistent. We need a standard that's going to stay the same. Too many standards just get involved in arcane discussions about points of principle and computer science. Too many academics on a standards body, unfortunately, is usually a bad sign. Too many vendor companies is a bad sign, because standards are good for vendors. They can screw their customers. But it's not the vendors who win in M2M. It's the solutions. We don't know what clever things people are going to do in India, but believe me, there's a lot of clever people and there's a lot of great startups. So what we need is something simple and pragmatic. And today, there'll be a new startup. I can't tell you what it will be doing. Maybe it's something with trains, flights, or my current company, farming data. We don't know what they're going to do, and they're going to grow really fast and be successful. Some of them will fall aside, and they'll get to 10, 20, 50,000 customers. Fantastic. They'll do it on a standard, because that's easy. They'll pick an open source implementation, because it's free. And then smack! Did they pick the right standard? Or have they fallen through the cracks because they can't scale? Scaling is hard. So how do you scale? You scale by forgetting most of what you currently know. You don't try and talk to every device. You let the device talk to you. You don't poll. You get pushed. You react. You don't do device management in the main. You don't do creating a new device on the network. You let it self-register, self-configure. And in terms of monitoring your system, that is where the real value comes. Because when you hit 100,000, 1 million, 10 million devices, failure is the new normal. It's how you deal with failure that differentiates you. And so what do? You can apply heuristics. You look at the flows, the patterns of messages from your devices. You say, this device hasn't communicated for 3 hours. Why is that? Is it dead? Well, we'll look back at our trend pattern. Hang on a second, it just never talks to us at 3 o'clock on a Friday. Okay, that's just what it does. Maybe there's a power outage. It certainly happens in Pune every Thursday afternoon, and that may be why the device doesn't talk. We don't know. So we don't try and guess and work out the scenarios, we just infer from the patterns of data. You also use a solution like an MQTT-based one because you want asynchroneity. You don't want everyone connected at the same time. You accept that different parties come and go. Servers come, servers go. Devices come, devices go. So you want to be able to send data and receive data, but not necessarily at the same time. Sometimes you want to broadcast information out to everybody. Sometimes you want to send it to one person. Sometimes you want people to choose what they want. You let the device select what it wants to know about. You don't tell it. You have to change your mindset the opposite way around to the way you're used to working. And that's hard for most software developers and software companies. They're too used to classic web architectures. And this is very different. We have to go back to the genesis of our roots, go back 10, 20 years, forget a lot of what we know. And then interestingly, you actually, in a big enough system, you use more than one standard. I represent MQTT, but I would never propose you built a large distributed IoT system just on MQTT. MQTT is asynchronous. Right, so what about the synchronous scenarios, the do-it-now problems? Oh, how about HTTP? So they're complements in that situation, not competitors. And that's a very important point to get across. So that's scale. The other thing that hits you in failure is reliability. We heard a lot of talk about infrastructure this morning. We've heard a lot of talk about building things and replacing things and putting new things in, and how what's currently there isn't good enough. Well, actually, it is good enough, because what we can do is we just put in stuff on top, like MQTT, that delivers reliability where there is underlying unreliability. We accept that failure, inconsistency, and problems are part of everyday parcel and parcel of life, of what we do. And that's the way you scale.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe, before I move to the next panelist, I could have a very basic question. As you are engaged in agriculture field, Kisan Hub, did your company or you have developed any applications which you think is suitable for the Indian farming? Any applications which you would like to share you think is perfectly suitable for the Indian farming? 70% of this country stays in rural, and we all know agriculture is an important vertical when you talk about machine-to-machine on IoT application from an Indian perspective. So is there any work has taken place or work in progress in your Kisan Hub suitable for Indian farming?
Almost certainly. We're an Indian company, and the biggest market we've got is India. But it's a very different market, a very unique market. It needs different solutions. Precision farming's been around 20, 30, 40 years, depending who you talk to. Put lots of sensors in the field, monitor your moisture, monitor your rainfall, use less water, use less pesticide. That's essential in India, but the cost of doing it is phenomenal with current solutions. We need things that are indigenous, pragmatic, can be fixed in every village, simple stuff, quick to prototype. The traditional approaches to hardware aren't appropriate. So, for example, one of the things we experiment with are things like the Arduinos, cheap, 700 rupee devices. We can stick some sensors on them. We can wrap them in a bit of car tire rubber or an anti-static bag, run them off a motorcycle battery, put them in a field, try it out. If it doesn't work, great. What's our loss? Small. If it does work, brilliant. If a farmer runs over it with a tractor, it's not the end of the world. And that's the kind of pragmatic solution we need. We need technology that can be used at the village level by the person who's the local specialist. Someone who can fix a few bits, can do a bit of basic soldering. That's the approach we need. Not expensive gadgetry that's very, very environmentally sensitive. Simple, easy to fix stuff, can run off what's available locally, is tolerant to the environment, and is cheap, either replaceable or upgradable. So we can prototype rapidly, deploy rapidly, and then change rapidly.
Thank you. With that, taking a cue from standards versus standards, let me go to our colleague Anuj. Actually, Dr. Ashok had to leave due to personal emergency, but we have the right person because he is the chair of the machine-to-machine working group in TSDSI. So I'll give it to you to introduce yourself and then tell us what all you have done until now when you talk about m2m working group as part of the TSDSI, and maybe you can touch upon, even if possible, the agriculture piece of it, because this is one of the activity you're also handling it. With that, thank you. Anuj, to you.
Yeah, thanks, Dinesh. So TSDSI was formulated with the vision that India, we need somebody which will work and promote Indian requirements. So that's where we started from. So we thought whenever we are talking about adopting any technologies, we need to understand what we exactly want. So that's where we started. We identified around 11 verticals, which includes your transportation, so one of the major is agriculture, transportation, utilities, you have pollution control, industrial automation. So like this, we identified 11 verticals. And we spend a lot of time identifying what use cases are required in India. So we spend a lot of time in identifying the specific use cases inside that, and then picking and prioritizing few and doing an analysis. Analysis in terms of what is going to be the geographical spread, what is going to be the, how much data, how frequently it's going to be, or what security is specifically required for that specific use case. So similarly, we are doing for 11 vertical. The objective is to probably create one technology which can be used for multiple verticals and create economies of scale. Specifically on agriculture, certainly there are a lot of work which has been done. So there is a participatory platform which has been designed and developed by TCS. You certainly have your sensors which is going into the farmers into the field to predict the pesticide use and water usage. You even have use cases where you can have wearable devices on the hands of farmers, which the way it has been moved, you can identify what activity the farmer did and have advices given to the farmer based on the type of activity he has done. For example, if he has spread out the seeds, after 15 days the system can analyze, with his hand it can analyze the seed has been thrown to the through the field, and after 15 days there can be an you can have an advice given to the farmer that do the next steps. So similarly, there are many use cases like in rural technology. There are, even after no fund, there are going to be many villages you will not even have connectivity. So we are even thinking of a way where your local transport can have a short range device, probably a Wi-Fi. When the bus goes to that village, it can collect the data from there on a offline basis, go to the city and upload it. So like this, you can have innovative ways for use of this technology to enable the rural part of India. Similarly, we are doing a lot of work in identifying use cases of pollution, to have a pollution matrix for a city. The river cleaning solutions, you can have a floater which you can put in Ganga, which can take the geolocation, identify the pollution parameters and keep sending it. So exactly you can find out which all areas the pollution is required. Similarly, the government has came up with PUC control, like your vehicles have to be PUC certified. So can we use m2m technology to automate the complete process so that you ensure that the petrol is given to the only vehicles which are PUC certified. Similarly, we have spent a lot of time in identifying use case. So what's going to be the next step? So what we think is, now once we understand as India that yeah, this is what we want as the requirement, we certainly have started a parallel activity of gap analysis, which is looking out for what all technologies are available. There are many standards which are evolving, and that's what we are doing. So once we know what is required, we will certainly get into a stage where we'll analyze the existing standards. If it completely suits our requirement, we'll work for adopting it. It's no point recreating. If there is some changes required to retrofit into Indian scenarios, we will ask for a change in the standards and we'll park it to the right body so that the changes are made at right place, so that it is the Indian requirements are globally harmonized. Certainly, as our friend Vinod said in the morning, that there are some areas that identified where nobody is working in global world, like your Bluetooth and PLC. So we'll be identifying those areas, working on that and parking it to the global standards. So in this way, we are addressing the requirements of India. We are harmonizing with the global standards so that we are not deviating, and probably that would help us create sustainable standards going forward. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Anuj, for sharing insight into it. And it's a great work your organization and your working group is doing it. I assume this is the case, but one question, I mean, have we taken the startups, the new entrepreneur, the R&D organization on board because they have a lot of ideas. But they are waiting for a platform where they could put forward their ideas and take their thought process or an idea into a next level of commercialization or patenting. So I think you have taken care of it, but maybe if you can enlighten us with that, it'll be nice. Thank you.
Thanks, Dinesh. So we understood this thing that in M2M specifically, India has a big chance to take up the leadership role. But how we are going to do that? Or who's going to do that? So that specifically, I've been talking to a lot of startups, and I said that, yeah, you are the people who have to come on board, who have to take that leadership role and create it for India. So I personally identified this long back, and I've taken it to the governing council of TSDSI, saying that though TSDSI is a membership-driven company, organization, how can I get the startups who are working on pocket money? How can I ask them to come? Well, because they are the one who is going to get up and come with the innovations. So we have gotten approval. So any startup or any innovator, any individual person who is willing to join us and work, we can get you on board as guest. So that's what we did. So anybody who, I would like to make this open request to all, because you are the people from the industry who are ideating, who are creating technologies. TSDSI has been formed to safeguard your IPR, safeguard your thought processes. So you come on board. There are a lot of energetic young people who are working there. Please be on board so that you also get benefit from the people who are of common interest, share ideas, and even take ideas from them. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much for highlighting the IPR policy, which is aligned to the Global Standard Development Organization, so which is a good step. Thank you very much. With that, we have to move to the last panelist, Mr. Bhavanlal Bishnoi, General Manager R&D, Landis Care Limited. As I understand, they deal with the smart energy, but let's hear from him about his work in the field of m2m and IoT, and let's hear from him that what he thinks is the next step when they talk about smart energy.
Thank you, Dineshji, for providing this opportunity to speak at M2M India IoT Forum. So our company is a Landis and Gear, which is currently part of the Toshiba Corporation, which is a big conglomerate and global company. So we had been working on smart energy meters, the traditional energy meters, and the M2M sensors, where these smart energy meters are a device itself, which collects all the data from every home. And it has lot of data, the load consumption by particular house or particular industry or particular place, including even street lights or big buildings. So there is a these devices use a RF or PLC or other kind of GSM or other technologies to throw that data back to the the central station, which is called as head-end system. So that software collects the data of all these discrete devices, and then it throws the pattern of particular place, what is the load, how the demand is being consumed, and then the generation station and the renewable integrations. So those are the areas where the energy being generated. So the energy being generated, energy being consumed. So there is a the efficiency of the system that can be improvised in a very big way. If we know all these data and we have the data available. So with that, the main areas where the company focus, Toshiba has started a smart community. So smart community is where the smart cities, the smart transportation, the smart the grid. Smart grid is one of the biggest opportunity. I think a lot of companies has been working on that area, where Toshiba is also playing a very leading role, and they had created a smart communities where these the energy which is being because the renewable integration in the Europe by 2020 is going to be almost 20% of the total generation. So that's going to be a big challenge for the smart utilities or smart community. And with that, the sensors, which is like the RF, because the interoperability is going to be the one of the biggest concern which is going to come forward, because the every the device has a different kind of a operating standard, and to process the data, either there has to be a conversion or there has to be a the standard which can be a interoperable. So one device can talk to other device, and they needs to work in a harmonious way. So that is where I think lot of help will be required from standard bodies who can play a big role to make these smart cities integratable, and the grid integratable, and the devices interconnected. Because otherwise, if there is a different standard or protocols, that will make a lot of challenge in terms of IoT success, and in terms of like next big evolution of IoT, because internet IPv4 and IPv6. So IPv6 is going to play a big role in going forward for a IoT especially in the energy domains, the utility domains. So that's the the biggest area where I think lot of research is going on, lot of innovation is going on, and I think Toshiba has invested very heavily to create the smart cities, the softwares, the devices, the transportation system, and all these systems, how they will integrate with each other. So the kind of like lot of global research, I mean, I will not say like only in India it is happening. It is happening at various locations in Japan, it is happening in US, it is happening in Europe, and there is a lot of global collaboration within the company. So where we leverage the strength from one place to other place, and that can put that technology fast in India, because we also contribute a lot. And I will give you one example where, like in the Delhi, we had done a very successful pilot for the advanced metering infrastructure, which is called as AMI. So AMI is the big step which is going to be a good part of the smart city or the smart grid, because a smart city will need the smart devices, and the energy meter, every house requires a one energy meter minimum, I mean. And that's where the the data collections, the data analytics, the loss reduction technologies, because some of the utilities in India, the loss is as high as like 30% plus kind of thing. But there are some utilities which is they had reduced from 30 to now almost close to single digit, which is 9 or 10% kind of thing. So that is where all these devices, the M2M devices, the the IoTs, they play a big role in making the utilities more sustainable, and reducing the carbon footprint by more integration of the renewables into it, where the the thermal or the coal based energy generation reduces, because they create a lot of pollution. But these clean energies is going to be define the future, and they help in a making this planet more greener and more safer for future generations. So I think maybe at the end I would like to introduce myself. I had been in this industry for almost 18 years, and mainly into energy meters or electricals. Worked with the GE Energy for almost 10 years, and then worked with the Larsen and Toubro in Mumbai, and then secure meters, and a lot of like currently I am working with Toshiba. So I am, I think, very big fan of Toshiba's smart community. So you can also go and visit on the website the Toshiba's smart community, where a lot of the information on the smart cities, the smart grid, the smart the transportation. So, and there are, I think, some cities in Japan where they had real life implemented these projects, and there is a like data available, like success of it, and pilots, because in India smart grids, I think the AMIs, the pilots are in a very big scale. There are, I think, 14 or 15 pilots, and there has been a Tata Power is a one of successful conclusion of the pilot, where the smart meter is one last device. Then you have a like data concentrator, then which is a like the RF devices, maybe in cluster, they sends the data to that concentrator, concentrate again data concentrate, it sends over a GSM, or the alternate through VPN to the main central server, And these are the, I think, what I can say is a very good, successful, real-life application of m2m devices as well as the IoT applications.
Thank you, Bhavar. Probably we have a session on smart city tomorrow, so there are a lot of questions which will be debated tomorrow, and data analytics and reliable data is a key, even from an IoT and M2M point of view. So we can continue that discussions probably tomorrow. But with that, probably we can open up for the questions. Let's have more Q&A, please. So the floor is open for the Q&A.
Paradigm, when we have this 1M, 2M already in advanced stage of proliferation and people are adopting it, and we have OMA, we have TR69 for device management, and you seem to have your own individual this thing.
Yeah, it's a good question, thanks. I'll defer to my friend on the end here, which made a very, very good point. So because of the lack of standards, we've had to develop the platform to adopt. So we've developed and we've written coding for a lot of adapters. We've taken the viewpoint that actually, we prefer lack of standards because it's a fragmented sector out there. And I think, it made a very, very good point. They can be really inhibiting. And we started Stream with computer science grads, green as green can come, straight out of university. So there was no baggage. And that evolved a culture within the organization whereby we just go around barriers. It's a problem. We look at different ways of tackling it. We've got completely unique architecture and completely unique coding. None of it is IP protected. We've filed no patents, but it's developed over a 15-year period, and it's been developed in terms of what the market wants and what we think the market wants, and a combination of both, because neither is ever right.
Thank you.
I agree. The time will tell basically where it is going, but let's not stop the R&D and innovation at this stage. Any other question, please?
Any more questions? Yeah.
Okay.
Now you can ask your questions that you're not able to ask in the morning.
My name is Shivraj. I'll ask my question by giving an example. So I went to in 2012 I went to the international conference on sensing technology in Kolkata. So there was a presentation from TCS guy who was telling us a real story happened with him. So they went to a remote place in Maharashtra to deploy some Zigbee based solution, which basically sense the soil composition and fertilizer composition in the soil, and then they send the data to some coordinator, and then they they get the what is the current state of the soil. So when they went to deploy, they deployed the system, and on the same in the same year there was no rain in that area. So villager thought that due to these devices, these Zigbee devices and these kind of devices, I think rain was not there, and then they they started like he ran away from that place. So my question is, in India, specifically in India, I think awareness about these kind of IoT and M2M and this kind of thing is must thing. We should understand at this point of time. So who will be the responsible for this kind of awareness program and this kind of information flowing and information awareness? Because without that, I don't think so that we would be successful.
I think before I give it to the other panelist, I totally agree. I think in the previous session this was discussed and debated that the capacity building is the key challenge. And especially when 70% of the country is rural. And not only rural, I mean, you have different languages. We have 33 official languages. We have 300 dialects. I mean, it's a big challenge. So skill development is the key. And I think government has started a program called National Skill Development Council, under which skill development should take place. What we have to make sure is that these new technology-related subjects become a part of curriculum, and then some kind of village local entrepreneurship happens. Because, for example, I'll tell you, there was a huge program earlier called Common Service Center. It did not fly so successfully, but I think with those village panchayats connected with the fiber, having the e-governance, and they are addressing the vernacular languages, if you make the village local entrepreneur competent enough to take care of those different applications, make those local awareness, I think that is the key with which we can solve this problem. But it's easy to say, difficult to do it. But I think efforts are happening. And I believe it's like, you go back 5-10 years before, when you first connected with the internet, you dialed up a connection, you dialed up a number and you waited, then the page came down. But that was the time. We started learning when we gave them a tool, which is affordable tool, and there is a local person available to help and guide them. I think that is achievable. But to go back to your question, I saw Anuj was coming up, and he is associated with Tata, so let me give it to him if he would like to add on top of it. Thanks.
Thank you, Dinesh. So on this specific topic, I would say I'm completely hopeful with the Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana. So in that thing, what has been envisioned is, so Tata's has adopted a village in Maharashtra, Kadamshet. So it's a socially and economically deprived village, and Tata has taken a responsibility to make it into an idle model village. So it is in line with your Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana. So once you make one successful story, certainly it would be a viral effect across. I think that's where the Prime Minister's step to create one specific idle village in every specific area, I think that's an ideal way to address what you said. That once you see a real life example of prosperity coming because using all these technologies and making a village smart, certainly everybody else would like to follow that. I think that's the only way to address that challenge. And in that specific work which Tatas are doing in creating that idle model village, we will be working to make the agriculture smart, providing the right basic resources like water, checking portable water sensors to measure what water quality is, even providing them with remote health facilities, providing e-governance, automating panchayat records. So when we do all these things and create a model, certainly it will go as a viral across. I think that will solve the problem. You wanted to add something?
I think it's happening. It'll happen. It'll happen. It's all affordability, availability. Once you give that, and all the government initiative of Digital India, modern village, I think it's all. And the time will come when your kids will tell you what is right, what is wrong. I mean, today they are scared because that's the bread and butter. I mean, if you risk it, they're not comfortable. But when you create a story, when you deliver it somewhere, as I said, village local entrepreneur, there are people who are competent enough to take care of the one particular village. So village panchayat, I think we are there, but we are slowly moving into that direction. I think it'll happen. Next
It'll
question,
take time.
Yeah. Next question. There are a couple of more questions. We are last session, so there is no worry. Nobody is asking us to stop.
Yeah. Not even.
My question is to Rafael. I hope I pronounced that right. My name is Ashok. I'm from Saskin Communications, Bangalore. So you spoke about self-configuration of devices, and you also mentioned that failure is the new normal, right? And it is important to figure out how fault can be tolerated and failure can be fixed, right? Today, there is Internet of Things, and there is also Internet of Human Beings, because at any point of time there is a failure, human intervention is required to fix it. But where do you see technology going to a point where a device that leads to a failure is able to get onto the internet, find a fix, and fix itself?
Let me clarify. I don't believe in self-healing. The big boys have been trying to sell self-healing since the early 90s. It doesn't work. What I'm talking about is the fact that we have to just address the fact that failure happens. So in terms of not so much the future, but where do we get the inspiration from? Let me give you two analogs. Now, I might have to put this down because I'm going to swing my arms around. So today, we tend to look in one place for our solutions. We look at the PC world, the desktop world, and more recently the web world, where we solve our problems, where most of our engineers come from. We've got to go back a little way and look in two very different places. Let's look at the supercomputers. What's a supercomputer? 10, 20, 30,000 servers in a data center. How do you manage a supercomputer? Well, you don't have a man running around with a CD drive putting Linux on every single one of them. How do you manage the disk failure that occurs every couple of seconds? Well, what does Google do? They just leave them in the rack. Once a week, they might go pull some of the boxes. It's those sorts of techniques I think we need to look at. We need to get our inspiration from them. They've solved this. How do you automate rollout across those devices? You have the slickest DevOps situation you've ever seen. You run customized Linux distros. You do all sorts of sensible and clever stuff. Then there's the other problem. You've got devices that are going to sit in the field for years. They're going to be down boreholes. They're going to be places people don't want to go. They've got noxious gases. Let's look at what the embedded community has been doing for years with that problem. So let's look at the very small and the very large, and let's find our inspiration from there. Does that help answer some of your question? I know it's not a perfect answer, but it's where we can look.
That's okay. I took my inspiration from science fiction. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to add, before we go for the next question, you want to add something?
Actually, like if you see in the smart grid, I mean, like there is a, in northern grid there was a collapse. I mean, complete failure. I think some 2 years back. The reason was like there was a overdraw of some of feeders, and that has made entire northern grid to collapse. So it was a complete blackout. So there are the solutions where like self-healing grids. I mean, after that people has a lot of research has started happening, like how grids should be self-sustained. So the feeder which has a the overdraft or the load which is like drawn more than the what demand has been forecasted. So there like that particular feeder I think can be isolated. I mean there is a called as a anti-islanding, and they can island that grid and the rest of the grid is still intact. So outage can be avoided. I mean.
So design. Oh, you have something to add on top of it?
What I would add to that is be aware of the black swan. I don't know how many people are familiar with the black swan. There are things you cannot predict because they have never occurred. And the classic example is a new system put into production. You do not know how it's going to respond. So be aware.
I was very fortunate to attend one of the presentation made by the director of ISRO. So he gave a complete presentation on what he did. So the space, the Mangalyaan which was there in Mars. So you send any communication from India, from the Earth, it will take 45 minutes to reach there. So if that yarn is stuck up in some area where it has to, there is no line of sight, or there is something which happened because of which you are not able to communicate. That so what they did was, and it was a tremendous work they did in very small time, where they identified issues what can arise, and they have created algorithms that how if you can fall back to the default state. If you stuck up at any position where you are not able to move, just roll back to the restart position. I think they did a comment that's what the differentiator, what the Mangalyaan is still alive.
Okay, let's go to the next question, please.
Yeah, my name is Nitin Agarwal, and I have seen like the m2m devices are already there in the banking industry, in the ATMs. They didn't call it m2m devices, but they are there from the long time, from 5-6 years. So some of the devices are having the PCI DSS standards that they have to undergo. So is Indian government planning for the same sort of thing, something that initial some standards devices have to undergo for the hacking and the security issues like we were facing in the morning, discussing like for the health section, maybe for the health vertical, where things are critical, so those devices must have to go through some security checks, some initial checks.
Can you explain any applications associated with the device in the banking?
Okay, like in the banking, ATMs have these devices. Many of the ATMs, they have a small device in which a SIM card is there, and all your transaction goes through a common server. So banking, many countries put some restriction that you can place those type of devices, but those devices needs to be PCI DSS standardized.
I have no idea about this. ATM, do you have the Tata is making ATMs?
In general, I'm asking that is government planning?
I don't think so. I mean, of course, they're facilitating. Maybe we have a government here. Let's hear from him. But I think RBI is looking forward for facilitating the wallet, the M wallet. But are they going to restrict or limit it? Maybe let's hear from Rinaji.
I can partly answer that question. Not about M wallet, but about the ATMs. Yeah. Yeah, please. For ATMs, we in India, they are already undergoing certain standards. They have to follow some international standards here in India also. So that is already fixed. That's like fixed even before the ATM machines are rolled out in India. But as far as M wallet is concerned, I think it is up to Rina.
See, when we talk about standards and talking about M2M as a overall standards, that's what I was talking in my discussions also, that we want to keep things open. From industry vertical specific, many standards have come and things have come up. But here we don't want to go on restriction of the kind of boxes, devices, interfaces. No doubt what we are going to say is from the communication front, there will be whatever global standards coming, we will be giving option that these subset may be best suitable for India, but that time will tell how exactly things will go. But there is always a trade-off between innovation and hard standards. So that kind of restrictions from government side we don't want, and that flexibility we want to keep for the industry to evolve on its own. And what you are talking about, ATM and all, these kind of interface standards and things was an era, almost 10 years back. But now those kind of things are, we can say these are past, and now nobody defines such kind of standards in today's upcoming standards things. So let us see how things goes.
And I think before we close it, still if it's your query is not answered, we will be happy if you can send me that query, because I'm still not able to understand that application. If you can send me or Anuj this query, we will try to find out more information and revert back to you. Any other question? Yes, please.
I am Srini from Ineda Systems, Hyderabad. One aspect is power. How critical is power consumed by the devices in the IoT? And then given that, these devices go into different domains, some domains not power, hungry, or some devices, some domains which are power hungry. So some comment on, how critical is power consumed by
good question. Devices. I can say that. And in the morning, Dr. Ashok said, question is always good, But I think yes, it's a big topic when we have a struggle to even power our homes, and we are a power deficient country today. What will happen to this power consumption of this revolution of Internet of Things? I personally don't think it's going to impact too much, because they are not the devices. They're low power devices. It's not going to consume that much energy. But believe me, I agree with you. When this actually will take off, I mean, it'll have some impact on the power, but I don't think so that'll become a big issue. You want to add something on it? Okay.
I think it is going to play a major role. That's the way I look at it. Because when we talk about sensors spread around everywhere, and even my variables and all that, and see, in IoT, we are not talking simply sensing. The power consumption is going to be the transmission. Depending on the communication technology that we are using, and the kind of data that we are sending, how often, how big string or whatever, the power budget is going to be, and it is going to impact on the product design, the sensor design, the size of it, whether it can be worn, how it gets impregnated into the environment, wherever, So that's where power management and energy efficiency in the product design, these two things are going to play a major role, and that's why a lot of people are looking at energy harvesting. When we talk about the sensors embedded into the environment, so energy harvesting technologies like, picking up energy even from the radiation from all these, RF transmission that we are doing. There's some work going on there. Then we have some work going on out of the, vibrations created by the general wind, with the air flowing. Can I capture, get a few millivolts, charge my supercapacitor instead of the battery, and run my sensor on it? There are a lot of things, and this is another whole field for innovation R&D, and I think if some people work on this, they could have a lot of good patents as well as a lot of revenues tomorrow.
I think I will add some point here. Like if you see like earlier generation microcontrollers, they used to consume in like hundreds of milliamperes. Nowadays you have a microcontrollers, the devices which consumes in like few milliamps or couple of microamps. When they operate in the battery mode, they consume in few of hundreds of microamps. Or even there are devices which is available in even nanoamps. So the technology which is like the 28 nanometer earlier was like 90 nanometer or so. So there is a lot of evolution is happening in semiconductor design and the devices, and that is going to reduce the power consumption substantially. And that I think in embedded devices, which I could see like when our first generation microcontrollers, we used to have like 100 of milliampere at 5 volt. Nowadays, we consume like half a milliamp. So that itself is, the power consumption is going to decline, and that is like depending on the associated technologies, which is semiconductor technology. That evolution is going to make that the power consumption less.
Right. So the systems that I see out there and most of the market which has developed, they consume a couple of hundreds of microamps, even in the low power mode or deep sleep mode. Okay, but with 50 billion devices that are expected to be in the market, we have to be going into the nanoscale or even just single digit microamps.
I think this is an important subject, and as Mr. Our colleague highlighted, innovation need to be in place. I mean, even body generates energy. Why don't we make use of this body which is generating an energy?
There's a research project came out recently. You can power some of these things off trees. Yeah. You can actually take off the potential difference between the bottom of the tree and the top. Not much. We need to fall a bit further, but yeah, they can be
but it's a good subject.
I one of the agricultural devices, like example, where the window is there, and that is a solar powered. So that is a self-sustained powered up. I mean, when the sun rises, and that devices get powered, and that sends the data. So that is the one of the classical innovation which took place and saved the energy.
Absolutely. Okay, next question. Okay, Heidi.
Actually, the first year pursuing our PG course from Symbiosis, we had done an extensive research on the adaptation of the IoT devices, particularly in the Indian market. And talking about the agriculture-based devices, where the IoT devices will be sensing the moisture of the soil, and accordingly they will send the data, and then the irrigation will be done. But there is a lot of hesitation in the market particularly from the consumer, whether they should go for it or not. So, what will be your opinion of this kind of devices based on agriculture? Because India is mostly dependent on agriculture, and people are very much they are not able to take a risk for the devices to judge about their utility of the land and the productivity. So, what will be the future in case of agriculture, where IoT will be entering in the coming days?
I think this is one of the use cases which Anuj highlighted, and this is getting studied as part of standard. But when you talk about commercialization, we have VCs, we have startups. They should take your product and make it on a pilot basis and go for next level. But let's hear from Rafael what he wants to share with us.
So very simply, it's not about the device, it's not about the technology, it's about providing a solution to a customer. And that's what we do at KissenHub. So at KissenHub, we're not really interested in soil moisture sensors. What we do is we provide decision support software based around crop modeling, of which soil moisture is just one input. And if we can get good data for that, we'll use it, and we'll be able to sell it to the client, a farmer. If we don't, we won't. It's as simple as that. So it's the value add you provide on top, not the device itself. So a soil moisture sensor is one way of feeding statistics into, say, our crop model for potatoes. But if we can't get that, we'll use a different source. We'll just have a slightly poorer quality output. So that's what's essential. It's what's the value add, not the sensor itself. I don't see any great market for innovation in sensor technology particularly. I think it's a race to the bottom. Where the value is going to be what we heard people like Machine Pulse doing earlier. That kind of value add on top of the sensor, on top of the collection platform.
Yeah, thank you. And certainly this use case has been taken up at a high priority and studied in TSDSI too, and we are doing an analysis about what is how this applicability will be taking place. One thing we are considering is that when we are designing a solution for a village, it should not just be restricted to one use case. Probably we have to address lot many other things across using the same infrastructure or the same technology available. So we are starting with this exact use cases, but we are trying to accommodate more value to that single solution, so that the solution can add more value to the villager, and it is easy for them to adopt it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have one question.
Okay, he was here before you.
Yeah, I have one question to Mr. Nigel Chadwick, if I... Yeah.
Yes.
No, can you explain? My name is Krishna Ramachandran. I am the operations manager for Comlabs. Any particular use case you have successfully implemented, the IoT implementation I'm asking for, your experience you had in that, in UK, if any, you can have some insight on that.
Can you repeat your question, please?
No, any successful IoT implementation you had, your experience in that. Of course, here there's a lot of power problems, the systems can fail here, we have limited hardware, and also how exactly you implemented a particular IoT solution. You can
You're trying to find out from him the platform which he presented, does it have any commercial takeoff?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay, right. Well, the platform effectively was developed internally for our own internal use as a very specialist MVNO servicing the M2M market since 2005. So the platform's already got 500 enterprise clients on it, providing connectivity across pretty much every vertical, right through from big clock maintenance. BBC used us to broadcast video over 3G during the Olympics, JCDecaux, Clear Channel in digital signage. We've got smart metering out there. We've got 6 to 10 companies rolling out smart metering, right through to rhinoceros tracking in Africa, which is hanging off satellite connectivity. So that's been well proven in the marketplace in terms of multiple commercial scenarios. What we've now done is made the platform available for use directly to mobile network operators and other types of carriers. For example, those companies wanting to roll out the LoRa technology from Semtech around the world, which, by the way, has probably a battery lifespan of about 5 years and has got a throw of about 5 to 10 kilometers. So, I mean, back to the point made by that gentleman over there earlier. So, given that we only released the platform out to network operators about 6 months ago, we're going to make our first announcement in the next 2 to 3 weeks, in terms of the first adoption by a tier 1 operator the other side of the world. That'll be a major announcement, and there's about another 6 to 10 operators around the world ready to adopt the platform thereafter. So it looks like it's, my hunch about a year ago was correct, that there is a very, very great need for this type of a platform around the world by network operators, because it effectively gives them an immediate play in M2M. We can get them integrated and up and running within 6 weeks, and then they're competing in the M2M market with their own branded platform solution, with everything tied around it, such as ThingWorks and What.io, if they want to take that. But the beautiful thing about it is, as soon as they integrate, that means that their enterprise clients can then choose also, should they wish, from the entire number of network operators around the world that we've already got integrated into the platform. So it's opening up a whole new commercial kind of import-export business around IoT across different sectors and across different applications and solutions, but also across different geography footprints.
Okay, we have last question because people need to go home as well. Okay, so let's not continue. One more question, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Aditya Jaiswal from Vodafone. We're talking about 50 billion devices in the near future to be connected, right? And most of them would be on the PAN, the personal area network. Is the government looking at segregating the sub-gigahertz band or the unlicensed band for the specific use cases?
You would like to address this? Yeah.
See, what I was speaking is that in almost every frequency band we have some free bands, almost everywhere. And globally, M2M deployment has happened mostly in the free band. And that's also going to be the kind of use cases in India also. and almost everywhere free bands are there, but if there is any specific requirement or specific use case where you find that something more needs to be done in India, we are open for that. So those kind of requests can always be given to DOT.
I think either it'll fall in the commercial band, which is available. Of course, we have different topic of debate that, you know, spectrum is not sufficient, which is commercially available. So that's a different subject altogether. But there are various bands which are available free, whether it is for the Wi-Fi or whether it is for smart metering for 865 to 867 megahertz. But I agree. I mean, this is a big topic which we need to talk about when you're putting commercial on the commercial band, all these applications. I mean, they will be treated as a device, and at the end of it, when you keep on putting those devices on top of the existing small chunk of that spectrum, this will be a problem. So it's a genuine problem. Okay, with that, one more question. You want to add something?
I want just okay, so let's the last comment, or maybe since we're talking about the IoT in village. Okay, I'll just give you a parting joke on this thing. One IoT startup guy, he went to a village, and he saw, we have those oil mills in the villages where they use ox to drive the oil mill. Okay, and he saw that there was an oil mill in one room, and ox was driving it. Okay, and the guy in charge, he was sitting outside and smoking. Okay, and he came out. He told, see, he's working inside, and you are sitting outside. Would you not like to monitor whether this ox is actually churning out oil or not? He said, I put a bell in his neck, so I think I can make out whether he's doing it or not. Okay, and no, the startup guy was still further. He wanted to sell something. He said, you have a mobile, I'll give you an app. He said, no, what if this guy, this ox, just stands still and keeps on, ringing the bell? You know what was the answer of the villager? He said he's not a graduate engineer.
Thank you very much, panelists, and thanks a lot. I'll give it back to you to close.